Hi, welcome to writetotop.com. I'm Adam. In today's video, what I'm going to do with you is assess an IELTS Task 2 essay from beginning to end. What this means is I'm going to show you the original question. I'm going to show you the essay that was submitted to me for assessment as it was originally submitted. Then I'm going to edit the essay. I'm going to fix the grammar, the vocabulary errors, punctuation issues if there are any, and I'm going to change anything that needs to be changed if the meaning or the flow or the idea was not clear. Then, once that is done, I'm going to assess it based on content. Now, what am I assessing? What criteria am I using to assess this essay? Well, if you go to the IELTS.org homepage, the official IELTS page, they will give you a rubric of how they score. They will show you what a 9 will get, what you need to get a 9, an 8, a 7, 6, etc. If you want the link to that page, it's below down in the comment section. You can go to the IELTS page and check that out. But essentially what this means is we're going to be looking at 4 criteria. Task response, which basically means, did you answer the question? Did you support your ideas? Did you support your thesis? Did you have good examples, good reasons? Did everything connect and did everything support the answer to the actual task given? Okay. Then we're going to look at coherence and cohesion. Basically, this means, was it understandable? Do your ideas clearly link one to another? Do they support back to the original task, the original thesis that you had? Did ideas flow from one to the next? Did sentences connect from one to the next, paragraph to paragraph, and the essay as a whole? Was it easy to understand? Was it logical? Did it flow? Then we're going to look at lexical resource. What does that mean? Vocabulary. Did you use good high-end words? Did you use a variety of words? Did you repeat any words? Were the words you used correctly, appropriately, or were you maybe forcing a few high-end words in there? We'll see. And then lastly, there's grammatical range and accuracy, which essentially means grammar. How were your verbs? How was your subject-verb agreement, articles, prepositions, your punctuation, your sentence variety, sentence structure? All of these things will be looked at. And then at the end, I'm going to look at the content and give you a final score. Before I do that, before I give you that score, I want you to read the original essay, and I want you to guess or to think, what score does this essay deserve? What band out of 9? Okay, 9 is the best, perfect score. 0 is rare. If you only wrote your name, then you get a 0. But if you wrote anything else somewhat remotely associated with the task, you'll get something. So let's begin with the actual question. Okay, and there it is. By punishing murderers with the death penalty, society is also guilty of committing murder. Therefore, life in prison is a better punishment for murderers. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So now, I'm not going to get into the question. I'm not going to explain it. Understand it as you would. Imagine you're taking the test. This is the question given to you. Now, I'm going to show you the actual essay, and then you're going to look at it and give it a score. Okay, so there is the full essay, the original as it was given to me. I want you to press pause on your video player. I want you to read it from beginning to end. Keep the question in mind. It's up there. It's a little bit smaller now, but you remember the question. Think of the band score that you would give it from 0 to 9. And when you're ready, press play. And you're going to watch how I edit everything and then comment on the whole essay in terms of content, okay? So let's get started with that. Okay, so as you can see, I've already done the full edit. I'm not going to do it with you together. That will take a long time, but what I want to do is I will go and explain all the changes I've made. First, let me explain that I used the track changes feature on Word, so you can see all the changes. Everything in red with a strike means something I deleted, took out. Everything in blue is something that I added. So I'm just going to go and explain to you why I made the changes I've made, okay? So first we're going to start with the word penalize, and I used instead punish. Penalize is not wrong, but it's a bit of a soft word for the context. When you penalize someone, you give them like a penalty, it's a punishment, but it's usually something small, usually something monetary, money. So if somebody is speeding down the highway and the police pull him over and they get a ticket, that is a penalty. So the police penalize this driver for going fast. Here we're talking about murder. You don't penalize a murderer, you punish a murderer. Okay, it's a little bit different. Not wrong, but punish is the better word in this context. I will also mention that this writer used S instead of Z in penalize. That's fine. British spelling or American spelling is okay on the IELTS. The only thing that you have to keep in mind, if you're going to go with British spelling, make sure it's all British. If you're going with American spelling, make sure it's all American. At least try to be consistent about it. But you're not going to get penalized for using British or American spelling. Next, taking away his life. To take away means to remove. But we're not talking about, when we talk about life, we don't remove the life, we end it. Okay? So take a life means to kill. So taking his life means to kill him. You don't have to use the away. Next, sentenced, he wrote sentenced with the death penalty. Now, that is fine, except that he was punished with the death penalty, or he was given the death penalty, but the word sentenced, first of all, that's a very high-end word. It's a very good word choice in this case. But sentenced to, punished with. So sentenced to death. Enough. The penalty is unnecessary because the sentencing means given a penalty or given a punishment. It's called the death penalty, but it is a punishment, which makes a little bit of sense with the penalize before. But again, punish is the better word. Okay. Next. Okay, so then we have sets an example for potential assassins. He wrote assassins. Now, why did I add the word other? When we have set an example, we have the original person doing something, and then we want to take that real situation and set an example for other people who might do the same thing. So again, he's not going to lose points for missing the word other, but for your reference, when you set an example, you set an example for others. There's the real situation, and then the example for other people who might or who consider the same thing. Now, why did I take out assassins and put in killers? Well, an assassin is a killer for hire. Somebody pays an assassin to kill somebody, and there's a very specific purpose and target for the assassin. So somebody who kills in cold blood, a murderer, is not an assassin. Again, depends on your view of things. Many people think assassins are essentially murderers, but they are sanctioned, means somebody gave them the authority and somebody even paid them. It's their job. A killer is just somebody who kills in cold blood, which is what we're talking about here, and that's why there's the death penalty. An assassin, if he gets caught, his own government or her own government will probably take care of that anyway. Now, this person split the last sentence into a separate sentence. Secondly, the death penalty is a just punishment. Why separate it? We're talking about what this essay will argue. It will argue 1 and 2. Why split it into 2 sentences? Put it all into 1 sentence. So it sets it. The fact that doing so sets an example for other potential killers, and that the death penalty is a just penalty. It's good for one reason and the second reason. Why split it? And that. So this essay will argue that and that. You have to make sure you have a parallel. That something and that something. And that's why I joined the two. Again, not wrong, not very good to separate them either. Next, in the second paragraph, so he wrote, the state does not tolerate crimes so much that it is willing to take. Now, the actual expression he wants to use here is so much so that. But he didn't use a full expression, he just used so much, he needed the so. But another problem with this is that he does not tolerate. We don't use this expression, so much so, with a negative statement before, okay? We use it only with a positive statement. So I'll give you an example sentence. The politician angered his electorate so much so that they decided not to vote for him, okay? Something like that. You have a positive, angry or angered, so much so that, and there's the result. So the much in the so much so refers to the angered. but you can't use it with a does not tolerate. You can't use it with a negative. Okay, so I changed it, does not tolerate such crimes, to the point that it is willing to take a life. To the point means the point of non-tolerance. Take away, we already discussed before. Okay, for anyone who thinks about killing an individual. So if what this means basically, if I left it as individual, it means that it's okay to kill a whole bunch of people, but if you only kill an individual, only kill one person, then there's a problem. No. Others. Killing anybody. Just other people. 1, 2, 100. You're a killer. You're going to be punished with death. Now, next line, committing such crimes. We're talking about generally, so it's plural. You need the S. And the stakes that would have to be put on the line. And I changed it to the stakes involved. Stakes means you're putting something on the line. So what you have here is called a redundancy. A redundancy is essentially saying the same thing twice with different expressions. Okay? Imagine somebody's trying to sell you like a watch or whatever piece of jewelry. You say, oh, this is a unique, one-of-a-kind watch. Well, unique means one of a kind. So saying it twice, unique, one-of-a-kind watch, that's redundant. Unique watch, one-of-a-kind watch, enough. Okay? So the stakes means the things that you are gambling with. Something you have something to win, but you also have something to lose. Okay? So the stakes involved, the stakes that they basically bet in their actions. The impact of the death penalty, of striking fear into potential murderers. He wants to explain that impact, but he has to give the reader a link that he's about to explain. So the impact of the death penalty, that is, of striking fear into potential murderers. So that is means, well, I'm going to explain what I mean by the impact. What is the impact? Okay? So it's a clarifying, linking phrase. Okay? I put a comma. That is of striking fear into potential murderers, comma, was proven. So there was proven, going back to the original subject, the impact, by research. Research is a non-countable noun. It doesn't need the a. Now, if you want to say a study, or proven by researchers who conducted studies, etc. By the university. The university is just an idea. It's a place. The university cannot conduct research. It was conducted at the University of Berkeley by researchers. Again, the University of Berkeley, Harvard University. If you have the name first and the university second, no article. If you have university first and the name second, the university. And then I put a period. Now what he did was he put a comma, and then the research compared. What he has here is called a run-on sentence. He has two independent clauses, two full sentences with their own complete ideas without a link, without a conjunction to link them. This is called a run-on sentence. So he finished his idea, put a period, start a new sentence. This research compared the statistics. You can compare statistics, it's not going to give you much. It compares the rates. How much or how many homicides per 1,000 people, for example. Okay, so the rates of homicide, murder, so a good word here, compared something against something else, compared of those states. So he's comparing the rates in states that have the death penalty against those of states that do not. Okay, those being the rates. Okay, and we have of, in. You don't need two prepositions, one's enough, that do not. Now, I struck out have the death penalty. It's not wrong. I could leave it there, but it's also not necessary. I have the comparison. I know what I'm comparing. States that have, states that do not have. That do not have, in the second one, unnecessary. Okay? Murders are countable, so fewer, not less. Less is for uncountable nouns. Now, here's a big problem. Not a huge problem, but it's a problem. The transition to the next body paragraph. Secondly. Now, when he puts secondly, that means he's listing reasons for his thesis, for his opinion. But he's not doing that here. What he's doing in the next paragraph is he's going into a concession argument. He's going to tell you what the other side of the issue might argue, which is a good thing to do. A concession is a very powerful tool in writing an essay, but you have to tell the reader they're about to get a contrasting view. Okay, so I took out the secondly and I put in a however. However shows contrast. Okay, now, however, argue that the death penalty would not bring back. Well, obviously, it's not going to bring back the victim. We know that. So what's the point of this sentence? That the death penalty is pointless because it does not bring the sentence back. We're talking about a just punishment. Is death penalty a just punishment? Well, other people might say it's not because it's pointless. It doesn't fix anything, right? That's what he has to say here. A dead individual, why not use different vocabulary now? The victim. He hasn't used it yet, so he can use it here now. The victim. Now, that is right. Avoid strong statements of fact. There's no such thing as that is right. That is right for some people, that is right, not right for other people. That may be right. Soften it. May be, seems to be, appears to be, etc. The innocent wife. I don't know she's innocent. I don't know anything about her. It's not important what I think about her. All I need to know is who she is. She is the victim's wife. Okay? Friends, and especially the children of a murdered man. We already know the victim. We don't need to say a murdered man. We already understand, or could be a woman, but he wrote a man. Make sure you use pronouns. Okay? Use pronouns. They're looking for that, and the graders are looking for that. His children. We already understand who we're talking about, the victim, his children. Would drastically change due to his no longer being. His being. So not him, his, but that's a grammar point. I'll actually make a video about that. It's a good one. And then next one. For the family of the killed man. We are, again, the family of the killed man. Of the killed man, we already know there's a victim. It's not fair to them. We already know who we're talking about. That the state kill, not kills, kill. This is the subjunctive. It is not fair, followed by a that clause. You have a base verb in the that clause. But again, that's another grammar point we'll discuss at another time. Already talked about assassinated. So well, I'm going to use murdered. Their beloved. Beloved includes the one. You don't need to say it. It's not wrong. You don't need it. Again, assassin, killer. So you can use different words. But again, assassin is not the right word. And let's look at the last, the conclusion. To conclude, the death penalty frights anyone who thinks. But again, we have to restate the thesis. Why? What do you think? What is your opinion? So the death penalty is justified. That's your thesis. And then you can give me the highlights of the reasons. Frights is not a verb. It's actually not even a word. So frightens. And sentencing again, sentencing to, punishing with, and then that's it. So there you go. There is the edited essay. Now we're going to look at the actual content and figure out where else this person lost points, where he got points, what he did well, what he needs to work on a little bit more. Okay, so now we're going to look at the clean copy of this essay. Like this is with all the changes I made, they're already in there. So the English is basically perfect now. Now let's look at the actual content, the actual answer. So let's read the first paragraph, the introduction. Let's actually go straight to the thesis statement, okay, the opinion statement. This essay will argue. So first, let me stop there. He didn't use I or me or my or any personal pronoun. Is this a problem? No. You can, but you don't have to use the personal pronouns. I personally recommend you say, in my opinion, I believe, I think. This way, it's very, very clear. But if you want to say, this essay will argue something, that's totally fine too. You're still giving an opinion. But remember, the question asks, to what extent do you agree? So it's okay to say, I agree very much or not at all. Now, another thing to mention is to what extent. So this essay will argue that murderers should indeed be sentenced. That word indeed answers the question, to what extent. So that's a very good point. It's a very good word. You should use it as well. So he's answering to what extent, and he's giving an opinion very clearly. Should indeed be sentenced to death due to the fact that doing so sets an example for other potential killers, and that the death penalty is a just punishment. So here's what his belief is. Here are his two general reasons, very clear and to what extent. All good, right? Yes and no. The main problem here, and it's actually a big problem and it cost him points, he didn't actually answer the question. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? What's the statement? There's only one statement in that question, in that task, okay? Therefore, life in prison, okay, is a better punishment for murderers. That's the statement that you have to agree or disagree with. By punishing murderers with the death penalty, society is also guilty of committing murder, okay? He's not addressing that statement. He's talking about the death penalty and he's talking about a better punishment. He mixed the two things together. So essentially, he didn't actually answer the question, okay? I'm going to come back to that though, and I'm going to show you how he could have fixed that very easily. Next, in the next one, he goes on and talks about setting an example for other killers. I don't like the fact that he sets an example again. Okay, he does that here. He sets an example again for anyone. So he's already said that in the introduction, doesn't have to say it again. But he explains his reasoning, he develops his reasoning, he makes them think twice. Potential murderers should think twice. It strikes fear into them. He brings in research from a reputable university, University of Berkeley. He gives you numbers, he compares states. He shows that the death penalty does in fact stop other people from doing the same. So he supported his argument, he supported his opinion very well. Where else is he losing points here? He's used the word potential 4 times in this essay and 3 times in one paragraph. This is going to cost him a little bit in terms of vocabulary, in terms of lexical resource, because there are synonyms to the word potential. Likely, probably, likely or probable or possible, would-be killers, future killers. There are options. If you're using the same word so many times, it shows the grader you might be a little bit limited. On the other hand, he does have other good words in his essay all around. He has the word sentence, as we mentioned before, striking fear into potential murderers. The word stakes involved. I mean, the involved is mine, the stakes is his, but stakes is a good word. And he has, again, generally a good range of vocabulary. Homicide is another one. But again, potential, too many times, that actually sticks out more to the graders. Second paragraph, body paragraph, again, he's going to lose a little bit for that transition. It's the wrong transition. He needs to show a contrast. But he makes up for it by giving a concession argument. He's showing you what the other side will argue and then bringing it back to his side. He's talking about the family. Okay, he's talking about what it means to them. Although the actual murdered man is dead, there are still other victims who need to be, they have to be given something in return. They need to feel that something is justified. There has been justice given to the killer. Okay, so they're talking about revenge, maybe. They're talking about closure. This is a very good word. He didn't use it, but I'm giving it to you now. Closure means to have a complete finish to an event where your mind does not have any more questions, there are no more doubts, there are no more feelings of revenge or vengeance, etc. Everything is closed, you can move on with your life, okay? But he gives good examples. The last sentence, I mean, he could have probably tied it back to the overall thesis to say that they responded with only one word, justice. This shows that closure is important to the family, to the extended victims, if you want to say that. The conclusion, again, he a little bit missed on the actual thesis restatement. He has to say death penalty is justified and then say why. But he made it short, gave a little bit of the highlights. It's all good and well. So, what score did you give this essay? Okay, I will tell you that I will give this a 6.5 band. Because generally speaking, it's very well written. He has a very clear introduction with a very clear thesis. He supports that thesis throughout. The flow is very good. It's very easy to follow his line of thinking. The grammar mistakes are not bad enough to make it difficult for the reader to follow his ideas. They're mistakes, yes, but they don't disturb my understanding of his message. Again, the word choices, not the best, but not so far off. At least I still understand what he's trying to say very easily. The transition was a little bit confusing, but not terrible. Overall, it's well written. Now, what could he have done to get a 7, maybe even a 7.5 on this essay? Well, let me show you what he could have done. Okay, first of all, he has to address the actual task. He has to mention life in prison. If you look at the whole essay, not once did he mention life in prison. That's why he's going to lose. That's why he lost a lot of points. 6.5 is actually a good score, and he got that because of the way he wrote it, the way he structured it, the cohesion and the coherence. So all he had to do is add 2 sentences to this essay, and he could have gotten 7, maybe even 7.5. Now, a thing to keep in mind, you can change the focus of the question, of the task, but you must tell the reader or the grader that you're doing so, okay? You must tell them that I understand your question, but I want to look at a different aspect. I want to look at a different perspective of this topic and answer it that way. So he's not completely off topic. He is more or less on target, on the right idea. He's just looking at the other side of the question instead of the side he was asked for. So in the introduction, in his thesis statement, this sentence right here, okay, more or less here, if he put in a sentence that stated that he understands the question is about life in prison, but he'd rather talk about the death penalty. Here's an example. While some people believe that being imprisoned for life is the ideal punishment, this essay will argue that the opposite view, namely that the death penalty is the stronger punishment, as it sets an example for other potential killers, and that the death penalty is a just punishment. If he did that, already better, because he's just changing focus. He's not completely ignoring the question. He didn't misunderstand the question. He just doesn't like it. He wants to look at the other side of it, which is fine. Ideally, answer the question. But if you've already written the essay, you have like 5 minutes left and you realize what you've done as you're checking, just add that sentence. You're already doing much better. Next, when he's going for his concession in the second body paragraph, I would also add a sentence there. Okay, I would write, again, just to bring back the idea of life in prison. I still understand what the task was. Some people, however, argue that life in prison is the better option as it serves as an actual punishment, and that the death penalty is pointless as it does not bring back the victim. That may be right, but, and then he goes on and continues with his line of thinking. 2 sentences added to this essay and you have 7, even 7.5. Again, he's still losing points for some of the vocab, some of the grammar, the transition. At the end of the day, he is losing quite a few points for not answering the question. But overall, he wrote well. Very good potential to this essay. Another word he could have used and should have probably used in this particular topic, but if you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. To deter. To deter means basically to make somebody not want to do something because of the consequences. Okay, so it's a good word to know. Would have been useful here, but there it is, 6.5. Okay, with a lot of potential for 7, 7.5. Fix all the little details, even could get an 8. This writer has the potential for an 8 on the IELTS. I'll leave it at that. So there you have it. We're done with this assessment. If you have any questions, please ask below in the YouTube comment or go to my website, write2top.com. You can join the public forum there and ask all the questions you want, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. There will be lots of videos coming to help you with the IELTS, TOEFL, CAE, all these tests to help you become better writers, hopefully. And yeah, if you want, come back again soon, and I'll see you again with the next video. Bye-bye.